What's up, everybody? How are you? This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster, with my co-host Richard
You
Williams in the
freestyling?
building. In the building, and it's another Wednesday. A little dreary out, rain, all that, but it's all good. We're here to see another day, and that's a beautiful thing. Real Talk is sponsored by Soft Illusions Art Gallery. You'll see them. Of course, Row House, Melba's. Uh, Chocolat, Daily Arts of Survival magazine, and so on, so on. We had a great show Monday. We had some doctors in the house, and we had Dr. Teresa Mack in the house, and we're going to start doing more shows with doctors to give you some more insight on just how you can become a better person in your life and what you need to do for yourself. And that's important. I think so. And that's what I'm all about. I always say positivity doesn't sell, but that doctor stuff really does sell. And I love it. I love doing that. And it's important to me. It's important to Malika. And, hopefully it's important to our listeners. With that being said, let me bring my man in, Richard Williams, to see how he's doing. What's up, Rich?
Hey, what's going on, brother? I'm just
Nothing,
putting.
man. How you feeling? You good?
Yeah, I'm just getting over post nasal drip. I get it every year, seasonally. You know, so I'm on the tail end of that. But
Yeah.
I got 2 feet on the ground, man.
That's a beautiful thing, man. How did you enjoy the show Monday? It was good. Thank you for chiming in.
Yeah, man, I came in late on it, but I wish I would have came in earlier, man. But it was very informative as usual. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and that's what we trying to do. We're going to always try to keep it informative and stuff like that. First and foremost, let's give our condolences out to the officer that his life was taken abruptly in a car stop, and by a career criminal, if we're going to call him that, and condolences to his family and stuff like that. It's never a good day in law enforcement or just in the world when a law officer loses his life, or anybody loses their life, to be honest with you, but especially somebody out here that's here to protect and serve. He loses his life. Let me ask you a question. It goes back to reform and stuff like that. Now, this was a career criminal that was out there that did this. But Rich, let me ask you, and I'm going to reach on this question.
Before you get into that, can you describe what you're talking about for people that don't know?
Well, okay, there was an officer I think it was Monday, did a car stop, and he pulled over a career criminal that had multiple priors under his belt. I don't know if he was out on reform or anything of that magnitude, but he pulled a car stop. I think he tried to pull a guy out the car, get the guy out the car. Guy pulled out a gun, shot him. The bullet went under his vest, and he was still able to get the gun away from the individual. And he went to the hospital, and he was pronounced dead. So I don't know what the number is on how many officers were killed this year. I know last year was crazy for us, but this year I don't know. I don't know if that's the first one. I'm not sure. I don't have the statistics on that. But I think he only had 3 years on the job too. I try to tell people all the time, no matter what you say and what you do, car stops are probably one of the most dangerous forms of interaction for an officer when it comes to interacting with or performing your job. So condolences to his family. Of course, the NYPD family is mourning him. The one thing about that, no matter what we do here and how we do it, we critique a lot of times bad behavior, but we all, I think, sympathize for anybody that loses their life in the line of duty, no matter what it is. But if it's corrections, PD, FD, I mean, you take this job. I used to always tell people, you sign up kind of knowingly. It's like, I guess, going to the military, or you sign up, God forbid, knowing that there may be a chance one day that you could lose your life, and you don't go to work thinking that, but there's always a strong possibility when you do engage with criminal behavior, or you do something, you stop somebody. Sometimes people need to understand now that's how some officers can be real tense when they do pull somebody over, because this is definitely going to heighten, awareness to things like that. We're not even discussing him being a career criminal. We're just talking about pulling over anybody. Some officers can be overzealous, and people get offended by that. But there are going to be a bunch of people out there to say, "See, what this was happened," and I can't Monday morning quarterback a situation like this, because I don't know if he did anything wrong. That could have happened to anybody, tactically sound. I don't know if he was with a partner, but what we find to happen is that if a person has a certain mentality, unless he would have drawn his gun, it was almost, a situation that was going to go bad. So yeah, this is what happened. I think it was Monday. Yeah, if I'm trying to recall correctly, Monday. My days are overlapping sometimes due to other things, but
where did it take place?
In Queens. It took place in Queens. But it leads me to my question that I want to ask you, since you do so much work for the community, but you do so much work with law enforcement and stuff like that. Do you think there should be a death penalty for anybody that kills a law enforcement officer? I know that's a tough one, and I gave it to you, but yeah,
I mean, it's not a tough one. It's. Let me say this. I've always felt like a officer who's been assaulted is not just an assault on that officer. It's an assault on justice and society as a whole. To me, because you saying fuck everybody, even him who's protect the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in saying that, yes. Now, the flip side to this is, if you're an officer and I say to everybody, say I'm the mayor, or I'm governor, president, whatever, and I pass that kind of law saying, yeah, if you fuck with the cops, you're gonna feel the total wrath of justice because of what he or she symbolizes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flip side of that, if that cop is dirty, and then that cop commits murder on a citizen, right? What do you say to that? Does he deserve or she deserve the death penalty?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Or they get special treatment?
I mean, like, we can go there. We can go down that rabbit hole.
Because what it boils down to is, as police officers, you guys are getting a certain kind of I don't know the correct words to use for that, but you don't get dealt with the same way an average person would get dealt with when it comes to a murder, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys got a strong ass union. I wish Pat Lynch was my motherfucking union rep when I was working, because that motherfucker, he goes all in. He don't give a fuck. You can get caught with the smoking gun. He don't give a fuck. He down with you. He gonna ride or die with you.
Yeah, I think that was just. I mean, what people feel about him. I guess what people will say was that he was an excellent union person. I think he should have a lot of times been a little bit more compassionate. I think if it was me, if I was a union president, I would have said, I'm sorry to hear about somebody losing their life or anything in that magnitude, but let's get the facts and let's get all the facts together and find out what happened. Pat Lynch just went straight ham on, hey, yo, he went straight to your jacket and was like, oh, he was a career criminal. Look what he did. Da 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 da. Bam, bing. And it is what it is. I didn't co-sign that all the time, but
yeah, but the system is set up that way. The system is set up on the side of law enforcement, especially when you policing a particular dynamic of people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now not me and you, but on this show, I've had discussions where, other cops felt, that I wasn't being realistic or fair when it comes to policing because I didn't understand, and most of the people in the public don't, including me, have ever experienced being in a situation where you had to have a firearm and then approach a situation and then, shit happens. Last night, I went to a training class that I had signed up for that I had to back out of because I had a prior commitment without realizing it. But last night I was able to go to one of those trainings, and it was the training. It was on 100th Street in what is that, Columbus Avenue at that precinct.
100th Street, the 2-4.
Yes, the 2-4. And it was about maybe 35 people in this training, and they were doing a simulation where they gave you, a fake gun, a fake taser, put the on, and you put the bulletproof vest on, and you went as partners, and they did a digital thing where they computerized a certain scenario,
Mm-hmm.
And you had to react to whatever happened. And it was always a situation where somebody either had a gun or didn't have a gun, and I'm gonna give you one where there were two women that they picked to be the beat walkers in this situation. They were going into the projects.
Mm-hmm.
So the call was there were some people on the stairway selling drugs. They go into the building, project building. They enter off the elevator, go into the exit, and when they get into the exit, they look down, and there's two guys standing at the bottom of the stairs, two of them, and they exchanging money, right? So the two officers says, stop right there. Let me see your hands. One of them threw his hands up and fell against the wall. The other one ran where you can't see him and was banging on the door, like trying to get out of the exit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're telling him, screaming, come out with your hands up. He spins out with a gun and starts firing at the two cops, while the other one is still standing back with his arms up against the wall. So both cops drew their weapons and starts firing. One of the participants only fired one shot and literally threw the gun down on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
The other woman, she was like Arnold Schwarzenegger. She fired shots and just straight bodied homeboy.
Right, right.
She was letting shots off like she was experienced at this. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Wound up killing the perp, right? But one of the shots hit the guy with his hands up. Right? Because he was in the line of fire. So after they did the scenario, the trainer goes back to the video and does a timeline of who shot first, how many shots were fired, and who got hit. And they explained that they had to account for every bullet that was fired.
Right.
Right. So the girl that fired the first shot, she fired a shot that was like on the steps, like close to the wall, that didn't hit nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And threw her gun on the floor. Right. The other girl emptied her gun, hit the dude with the gun 5 times, and hit the guy against the wall once. So after that, he asked them, well, how many shots do you think you fired? The one that threw the gun on the ground said, I only shot once. The one that emptied, they just lit off, she said about 3 times. And she fired about 7, 8 shots. Now, all of the shots, for the most part, hit their mark. And when the other shot hit the dude with his hands up, the trainer was like, okay, so you did a good job because you shot the guy with the gun, but why did you shoot the other guy? You know what she said?
What?
She said he was down with him. Now that was
a different mentality. Yeah, different mentality. Yeah.
Because the trainer was asking the people, in the audience, what they thought about what she said and what happened, all the whole thing about how it went down. And I was like, well, the truth is, he was there. He had his hands up. He didn't find no shot, but he was standing in a position where he saw that dude with that gun getting ready to come back out. So you getting ready to see what's about to happen, but yet you still standing there playing the role like you giving up. So to me, it was like he was playing possum to allow the other dude to get his shit together to roll back around to let off.
Right. Which could possibly be the case, because the bottom line is he could have. I mean, he saw it
because he didn't say, "Yo, don't do that. Stop. Yo,
right.
He gave no warning about what was about to happen to display that he have nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, yo, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Yo, don't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in real life situations, I understand that it's easy to the quarterback from your couch is saying, what you think should have happened. But when your life is on the line and shit happens, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the one thing I think we can equate this to any job or like, sports, for people that play sports. It's one thing to play recreational sports. It's another thing to play organized sports. When you're playing against a clock, you're playing under the management of a coach. It's the same thing, like, when you're playing like recreational ball, you can make a mistake and be like, "Oh, my bad." You know what I'm saying? But when you're playing and I'm just equating this to like if you're playing in a organized game, no matter what sport it is, you make a mistake, it can cost you the game. When people do not understand the adrenaline that goes, you can't get taught heart, and you can't get taught how to control your adrenaline when situations like that happen. You know what I'm saying? You're reacting to what you think is going to happen. You're reacting to what you're actually seeing, and you're reacting to what actually happens. You know what I'm trying to say? So, for that scenario, and that's a good thing that you saw that as John Q. Public, that and how those individuals reacted. I mean, great that they were able to get off a shot, but then, like you said, they shot the other person. The person had his hand up. In today's society, you don't get judged by, well, you knew it was happening, that's why you got shot too. You get judged at the fact that the person's hand was up. How did the rest of that training go? What did the instructor say in regards to that?
The instructor said, that's why you go through this training Well, while they are showing it to us to see how things happen in real time, as opposed to what you hear after it jumps off. You know, they said there's going to be an investigation. Every bullet has to be accounted for. They're going to question you about, why, how many shots you fired, and they said that they're told not to answer that question, like how many shots did you fire, because you never seem to get it right. Because everybody that went up there that fired shots, they asked them how many shots did you fire, and nobody got them right about how many shots they fired.
Right.
So adrenaline is rushing, and all of the scenarios were different. Another one was a domestic violence call. They came to the house. There was a cop already on the scene. He said he was going to go around the back of the house. Two other cops went to the front door, knocked on the door. They heard the woman screaming. They looked through the window, and there was a man in there holding a shotgun on the woman while she was on the floor. Right? They bang on the door. He turns around and points the shotgun from the window at the two cops. And again, these were two women. Most of the people that were at this joint was women. The two women, one of them fires 5 shots. Her first shot hit dude in his head. It was a kill shot.
Yeah, that's a no. Yeah.
No, but dude turned around with the shotgun pointing at them to fire.
I know, but in department standards, they will always say, and I guess it's not an equation to somebody having a gun pointing at you, but they used to always say they didn't want you to shoot somebody in the head because that looked like more execution. You were taught to shoot center mass. That way, the way they articulate it is that you're shooting to stop the vital organs from the person from moving, because that's where all the vital organs are. So, I mean, trust me, in a court of law, the person will be indemnified because you shot the person that pointed a gun at you. But I'm just saying, technically, they say you don't shoot, in a headshot. But go ahead.
5 times. The first shot hit him in the head. The rest went in center mass.
Right.
So they were saying how that was a good shot. I mean, it was a good shooting.
It was justifiable. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Other one was they got a call that there was a break and entering. They go to the house, right? The doors are broken open. So they walk in the house. As they're in the house, they walk and step over a crowbar, right? They clear the whole top floor. Then they go downstairs. When they get to the basement, there's another room that appears to be a closet. So they hear somebody in the closet. One cop stands directly, and the way it was videoed, they have you situated like directly in front of the door. While the other cop that came in the house with you, he's walking you through, talking to you, and he's opening the closet door. So he opens the door and steps back. When he does that, there's a big black dude in there with his back to them. And when he turns around, he's screaming, "Get out of my house. What are you doing in my house?" And then turns back around and goes in the closet and grabs a belt and comes out with a belt and goes to swing the belt. And then they start shooting him.
Whoa. All right. What did the instructor say about that?
They were justifying it.
How did they justify the belt?
Because they stepped over a crowbar, and the crowbar showed that there was, in fact, a break in.
A break in entry. Yeah. Okay.
So breaking the door, there was a crowbar on the floor, right? They went down into the basement. The dude was in the closet. He turns around, flailing to him, "What are you doing in my house? Get out of my house!" And then spins back to go in the closet to grab a belt, right? So they were justifying it, and I said, I can see why somebody was scared. It was like close quarters. This dude was as big as me, right? But you got 3 cops that go down there. The cop that spun and opened the door, he fell out of the camera. So I'm like, it was a door opening, not a door like, you know how you close it? I mean, like, if you go into a front door, you open it and it's opening to the inside, like you're opening in.
Right.
This one opened out. So I'm like, what was the cop that opened the door doing when dude came out the first time yelling and screaming and then went back in the closet?
Right.
He going back in the closet. You can close the door or you can run behind him and bum rush him because he got his back to you.
Yeah.
But go back in the closet and come back out. And the other piece was, and this is what I'm telling I would have never been standing straight in front of that door. I said I would have been standing off to the side. But you're given a scenario like the person that was assigned to go in there was supposed to be standing in front of the door. I said, to me, that scenario isn't really genuine because I don't know anybody that would be standing right in front of the door with their gun holstered, waiting for you to open it, and somebody come running out of there, screaming, big as a motherfucker, and he ain't gonna get shot.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's so funny. People have to understand, especially with a situation like that, you know, you can't prepare for fear. You prepare for all kind of different scenarios. I mean, like something like that. Hopefully, you're working with somebody, and we hear noise in the closet. I'm going to be like, yo, Rich, get ready. I'm going to open up the door, and then I'm going to step back, and then I'm going to go off your eyes. You know what I'm trying to say? And then, you know, I'm really looking at you to be the point on that now. You know, you're going to have to tell me what you see, and if I hear something or whatever, I could slam the door. You know what I'm saying, and prepare again. But you know, like they used to say in the hood, if it was a fifth, we all be drunk. You know what I'm trying to say? Like you, something like that. You really don't know, and you know, like I said, and I guess in a justification standpoint, they're gonna be like, yo, I didn't know what he was swinging. You know, they're gonna probably say that.
You know, Darcel Clark, the Bronx DA, she was just recently on television.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want to get her department funded any more money. She wanted them to take that money and put it in the community because she said that she couldn't prosecute her way out of these problems, right? Because there needs to be services, there needs to be programming, it needs to be things offered so kids don't fall into, you know, this type of shit. You know, not wait till it happens and then try to figure out what we're going to do with them. Let's try to prevent it from happening by enriching a person's life where they don't go down that road, right? Now, when I was talking to these officers about these different scenarios, like that last one I told you about, the dude in the basement, you know, they weren't being real transparent about whether the person was actually the burglar or was he the person that lived there. You know,
they never answered it, huh? Yeah.
No, I said, cause the way it looks to me is that guy lived there and he was in the closet, maybe hiding from whoever broke in the house. And when you open the door, the fact that he had his back to the door, right? He might have been trying to get deep in that closet. And when you open the door, he spun around and said, yo, get the fuck out my house. What you doing in my house?
So okay, let me stay with this. So the way they were portraying it, or you're taking it, is that he could have been the person saying, get out my house out of fear, and he's just turning around yelling at somebody. Now, I'm gonna take from an officer standpoint, you might take it and say, well, wait a minute. This is the guy that broke in the house, and now he sees us here, and he's going to say that to try to throw us off our game.
Yeah, it could go either way.
Right.
I'm not saying for sure that it was this or that.
No. We just used two different scenarios for it. That's all.
So the question I then asked them was, is there a way we could train officers out of this situation? I mean, is there enough training that could be had because you're only getting 6 months training. And for me, if you go into the field of boxing, mixed martial arts, or karate, right? All of those disciplines, you ain't gonna become no black belt in 6 months.
Not at all. Not at all.
Right? You got to go through the ranks of studying hand-to-hand combat, right?
Yep.
Then the other part is weapons, right? How to disarm somebody with a knife or a gun, how to use those same weapons on somebody else. This is intense training that's going to take more than 6 months by itself.
Yeah.
Right?
It technically is supposed to take 5 years to get your black belt, just for anybody's edification.
So is the kind of training that a person is going to need to be confident enough to confront somebody without a gun. That training alone is worth more than 6 months.
Right.
Then all the other training that comes with it, you know, I don't know what all that is, but it got to be some psychology and sociology, all of these different things to be able to deal with people on the mental level. And then the studying of the law of what's legal and what's illegal.
Yeah.
Has the ability to change as time goes on. Right? So my thing is, if I'm going to be a cop and I choose that as my field, I want to be trained to the fullest. I don't want to go. That's like me. They say, yo, D, you a big motherfucker. You know, you 19, Mike Tyson 19. Give me 6 months. I get you in the ring with him. I'm like, yeah, right. And then on top of that, I'm in the field, right? And I'm in the field that my life is on the line. If I got to deal with some kind of combat, I'm going to get out of shape while I'm still in this field. Because I've watched cops, fat, sloppy, out of shape motherfuckers. You know they ain't chasing nobody. You know they ain't rumbling with nobody. But they got that.
Let me tell you something. It's definitely, I was with some guys, some Philly PD guys, and my man showed me a video of him. He was working highway, and he ended up fighting the clip. He showed me the clip of him fighting the perp with the gun. Right? They were on the ground scrapping. The bottom line is, it's a young man's game. It's a different mentality, because if you could take the percentile of officers, you know, New York could say, okay, we got 40,000. I mean, at one point, you used to say when I was working, we have 40,000 officers. Doesn't mean 40,000 officers are ready for the street. You know what I'm trying to say? We're talking about officers that are just that's assigned to the police department to work in the street.
But they putting them in the street.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they're prepared for the street. I'm not saying that at all. I think
everybody that joins the military and you going out there in the combat, the whole time you're in the military, your ass is in shape.
Right.
The whole time. You ain't no time while you're active duty that your ass is fat, sloppy, and nasty.
Right. But you know what's so funny? It's like I say this. I don't ever remember seeing somebody get pulled over by a state trooper, or see a state trooper get out and he got his tie off. I mean, I don't know about anybody else. You get pulled over by a state trooper, you definitely gonna get nervous, because just their presentation, the way they carry themselves is intimidating. Whether they're coming in soft or hard, you know what I'm trying to say. But the bottom line is they look the part of what they're trying to present is a officer. The uniform is tight. Their boots, everything, you know, from head to toe, they look the part. They really do.
These guys, these kids, they turning out in the academy today. I mean, you look at them, they look scared. They hitting these streets. looking scared, looking out of shape. And then you got some that are in shape. But for the most part, I look at a lot of these guys coming on, man, and I'm like, yo, I'm 64 years old. I'm in better shape than some of these dudes.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, so what are we saying about that? You know, you putting them out there and you giving them a gun, you giving them a taser, you know, and you giving them a radio and you dropping them off on the night shift.
Yeah.
In Brooklyn, in Harlem, in hot spots.
Yeah.
It's like they security guards. They just here to observe and
Yeah, like my man Dada said, he said, yeah, state police still have a fitness standard. That's very important. I mean, and you know, the military does a lot of local enforcement agencies don't have that, and maybe they should. I really would agree with that. Dada also says, he says, what else he says? He says NYPD and the PBA refused to implement a fitness standard because of the liability. Yeah, I would probably agree with that because if somebody gets hurt, huh?
What do you mean by that?
Well, they don't like say that you have to be a certain weight, height. I mean, not height, but I guess you don't have to look the part to be the part. You know, that's one thing. And it was when I was working, there wasn't a requirement that once you get out of the academy that you had to stay at a certain weight level or stuff like that.
But why would you get in that weight level in that shape?
What'd you say?
So what's the purpose of requiring you to have a certain fitness level if you don't have to maintain it?
Well, listen. That's above my pay grade. I don't know why that's that way.
That fireman.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if firemen still have to requalify and stuff like that.
Yo.
The only thing that I know with NYPD is you have to requalify for your firearm. You know.
Yeah. So all that's saying, as long as you can shoot a motherfucker, you good.
Well, I'm not going to say that. It's just the fact that they're saying to carry that firearm, you have to qualify. I mean, because the bottom line is,
but Bill, saying that as long as you can shoot the trigger, you ain't gotta restrain or be physically fit enough to hold somebody or cuff somebody or detain somebody. As long as you can shoot them, you good.
Well, I mean, think about it. To me, it goes back to that old cliche of, I don't know if anybody saw the movie The 300, right? And then they fought against Percy's and or whatever the dude names.
Persians.
Yeah, and the Persians, right? And like the 300, they were fighters. And it took 300, they was just putting foot to ass on everybody. And because they were trained to do what they did. That's not the case with NYPD. NYPD's thing is it's about how the volume, the number, like, you know, they say we got the biggest cops, you know, we got the biggest gang in the land at the time, 40,000. I don't know what it is now, 30,000, whatever. I don't know what the number is, but I'm just saying.
Going back to that movie that you just mentioned, the 300. The right. 300 went to another group, another tribe to help them fight.
Yeah.
And telling them we don't need them. And they said, yeah, well, we got more than you. He said, well, let me ask you something. What do you do for a living? He said, I'm a farmer. What do you do for a living? I'm a car. What do you do for some of this? He said, Spartans, what do you do? We kill.
We fight. Exactly. You know, Stefania says, well, there's a recruitment shortage, so they're accepting any and everybody at this time. That is true. They have lowered their standards in integrity and stuff like that. There are people that may be able to get on that have misdemeanors where they would have never did that before. So are there people that have done some things in their past they wish they could get rid of and they're law-abiding citizens and probably deserve to be law enforcement? Absolutely. Because trust me, I know there's a lot of law enforcement officers that ain't squeaky clean, but they'll judge like they are. But I don't know if this is a reason for lack of skill set. Maybe it is now, but the laws and the way people go about conducting their job, doing their job, has changed considerably from when I was doing it. And maybe any officers that are out there listening have done it, because you were still taught a certain mentality and a certain way to, I say protect and serve. I never like to use the word policing, because then that would means I was kind of telling you and kind of controlling the narrative, the situation. I think we both talked about the training for like fighting, martial arts, or even in any. I go back to any organized sport. You trained, you practice. It's called practice. Police departments don't practice self-defense. They don't practice tactics all the time. Like, those are things that maybe you should go once every month or every 2 months, maybe a week class, but they act like they can't, sacrifice the manpower. I know I've seen officers getting go to the academy and got hurt fighting and end up trying to sue the academy for their job, because now they were out with a dislocated shoulder, and then you couldn't go through the academy, and then next thing you know, they got disqualified and they fought for their jobs. I know this personally, so I've seen it. So then they tried to change it, because now you got people suing the department for their jobs, and they're looking at them like, yo, you can't even get out of this. Or like Grisel said, running after a criminal. Yolanda says, Yolanda says? Let's see, what is this one? Is this? Yolanda said, I've worked with some big officers and they handle their own. I guess it's the innocent strength and how they go out there and do their jobs to the best of their abilities. Yeah, I mean, Yolanda, shout out to Yolanda. We used to work together. When you look at a person, either, we used to have this thing like, if you scared, say you scared. You know what I'm saying? From narcotics. And you had to have a different mentality to work in narcotics, TNT, whatever they wanted to call us. You had to have a different mentality,
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
When you go and you work in TNT, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you actually recruited for that? Or you say, hey, I want to work with TNT, and they say, sure, come on.
Oh, no. Well, when I went, you had to have career points to get in it. TNT was a specialized unit. So you weren't just put in TNT because you just wanted to go there.
You were chosen.
Huh?
You were chosen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they had to look at your career points, your arrests, what part are you going? Are you going as an undercover? Are you going as an investigator?
But the long story short of it is that somebody chose you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Other cops that they could have picked, right? But somebody chose certain cops for that, right? So it was a recruitment process.
Okay, I see where you're going with it. Go ahead. Uh-huh.
So now, I'm just saying, if I'm a person and I own some property or simply say that I want to secure my land or my business or whatever, and I'm securing it from vandals or wrongdoers or people that are coming to see it or buy it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to choose someone, I'm not going to go and pick somebody that look like they scared to be in their own living room and they're physically not able to put their body in the way of harm to protect my interests.
Well, I mean, think about it.
So I'm going to recruit.
I mean, think about it. Think about it. When a person does security at a club, you're not putting a little 5'3" dude, no disrespect to anybody, 5'3", male or female. You're gonna put somebody in your height, even somebody you would look me. I don't have a rough exterior. You would want somebody that looks the part, as long as they don't have to be the part. You know, maybe somebody that's muscular or a female that's tall.
But that's not always the best choice. Just to have
no,
somebody.
I understand that, and some of the most dangerous people I know are under 6 feet.
Exactly.
So I know that, but the bottom line is, it doesn't mean.
But there's a certain demeanor involved with this too, Bill.
That I agree with it. I mean, listen.
That
Think about this. Think about a dog. Everybody knows, you know, when you want a guard dog, you want a Chihuahua. A Chihuahua. You want a Rottweiler, a Doberman, a Shepherd. But look at the most meanest dogs out there we see, and it's the smallest dog. It's a Chihuahua. You know what I'm saying? They bark and growl at you, and I've never seen a Chihuahua scared of anybody.
Yeah, but I seen a Chihuahua in the mouth of a pit before. Still.
Well, I'm not saying they can't get handled, but what I'm trying to say is their heart. You know what I'm trying to say?
I feel you. What, are you going to get a Chihuahua to guard your house?
But, oh, hell no. But what I'm trying to say is, listen, dogs today, some dogs today, you have a big dog, he running from a cat. They used to, what's the old cliche? A dog used to kill a cat. Not anymore. You got a cat to slap a dog around in a minute. So I'm just saying, what's perceived to be dangerous or security sometimes is not, in lieu of like you know, we're talking about height and size. But the bottom line is, you want something big that looks like it's a deterrent. You just said it. I mean, how many times you see little officers in the street right now? How many times you look at somebody your height, you're 6'5", right? You see a little officer, male or female, any ethnicity, 5'2", 5'3", you'd be like, what is he or she going to do with me? You know what I'm saying? I've had officers in the academy tell me, they said, yo, they could walk from the police academy to their house in Co-op City, and they could take a piece of uniform off of any officer they saw in the street, because they would know which one to pick with with the bar. They could see it. But when you see a police officer, it's supposed to be a deterrent. Right now, we have people out here disrespecting officers like it's okay. That wasn't on my watch. I wouldn't understand. Before I got on tonight with you, I was just on the phone with somebody, and they asked me, they said, yo, what would have happened in your time? I said, it wouldn't have happened. I said, yo, there would have been a lot of people getting their teeth knocked out. It's not happening. Today's now, you got body cam. I told them, I said, I would have lost my job. I'm not having anybody disrespect me. I'm not having anybody disrespect me now. You know what I'm trying to say? So damn, no, you wasn't disrespect me in my employment, you know, because now, if for you to disrespect me while I'm working, you really think it's something different about me. You really think I'm soft. Yeah. Now, a person could try me because he just doesn't know me, or he thinks he sees something easy. And that's their perception. And perception breeds reality sometimes, but perception can cause you to get in trouble. But what I say all that to say, you know, when you're on a foot post, I looked the part. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a rough exterior, but the bottom line is, you know, where you act up is where you got it. And that's just what it is. You know, I've given up fair ones.
You know something else, Bill? I've seen recent, like last month, there was a situation out here on 8th Avenue where these cops pulled over this car. One of the guy that was driving had a warrant out on him, right? He was pulled over because they were smoking weed in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So when they pulled him over, they told him why they was pulling him over. They was like, yo, well, weed is legal. He said, it ain't legal for you to smoke and drive. Right. So they pulled him out, asked him for his license registration. He got out. They found out he had a warrant. Mm-hmm. Right. So now the passengers were asked to get out the car too, because they had to confiscate the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So now, because they confiscating the vehicle, the guys was beefing about, yo, that's fucked up. Why don't you just leave the car? You know, one of us could drive. And the cop was like, well, give me your ID. He said, I'm not giving you my fucking ID. You know, so it got into an exchange of words with the cop. And this is a cop that looked like he could fuck you up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the guy talking to looked like he was equally
Capable of doing that. Yep.
So they started asking the rest of them for ID. So the big dude was like, man, we ain't got to give you no fucking ID.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck you want my ID for? I wasn't driving the car.
Right.
So he's beefing with him about his rights. And the cop is trying to tell him he got the right to get his ID from him. And quoting the law to him, you don't have the right to get my ID from me. Right? So now the big cop knew he was wrong, but he was still trying to argue with dude because dude was basically telling man, if you put your hands on me, I'm gonna bust your ass.
Mm-hmm.
So the big cop was like, you can see it on his face. He wanted to try him. He said, go ahead, try me, nigga. He said, I'm not showing you nothing. I don't have to show you nothing. And no, I'm not going with you.
But let me interject right now. That's today's world where people think they can say that. You don't even know you're making it harder on yourself, because the bottom line is, people, I pull you over in a car. Now I'm pulling you out for having some kind of substance. Okay, yeah, I'm dealing with the driver. Now a person is under the impression, oh, well, I don't have to show you ID. I could be asking you for ID to see if you can drive this vehicle, or there's a multitude of reasons why I can ask you for your ID. But see, when you start telling me what I can't do and I can do, this is a whole different world.
What say about that though, Bill? Can
Huh?
you just ask somebody for their ID just because you want their ID?
But, well, you know what's so funny? You probably can't, but there's a way you can do it where it's not considered such a disrespect of rights. You know what I'm saying? I could say, well, I'm asking you, I want to know who I'm talking to, you know? And
no, you don't have the right to ask me for my ID. I've done nothing wrong. No, I'm not giving you my ID. You're telling me that you can force them to give you the ID or arrest them for not giving it to you?
Well, see, people have to understand, when you start asking somebody, when you start getting a lawful order and you disobey it, that could be a discount. You understand what I'm trying to say? See, back in the days, the way laws were used.
Yeah, but Bill, like you just said, though, we talking about now. The law is not built like that now.
Well, yeah. Well, you're right. So that's why I'm glad I ain't working now.
You know that if they do that, these little young niggas is lining up to sue the city for $10,000.
Well, listen, you can get sued right now for anything. Dada said NYPD will not implement any fitness standards similar to the military because it would mean you could be fired for being out of shape. Then that puts the healthcare coverage aspect in jeopardy, because now the death losses of body now transition that to self-confidence. If I know that I'm not fit, my training isn't ready. My training isn't really what it should be. My skills are suspect. I'm nervous and heavy nervous at any heavy encounter. Now factor in the respective lack of respect for police. Now all in cell phones, it makes, it's so funny. Everything, like I said, everything is different now. Everything is different now. You and I could sit here and go back and forth on that all day. And, you're not wrong. Most likely I might be wrong in a sense, because it's a whole different police mentality. But
if I could rewrite the law or the job description or everything that surrounds policing, right? I would, number one, pay more money for it, have more intense training, have rules and situations where you see how the fire department works, right? They go on tours where there's 2 24-hour shifts, right? So you go on and you working for 2 24-hour shifts, and you're basically living in the firehouse.
Yeah.
So in the firehouse, they got workout shit. They got a cook there that cooks for them.
Right.
So my thing is, I would follow some of the things that work when it comes to keeping people in shape. Just like in the military, they cook on the grounds. They have a diet. They have all the equipment there and all the stuff that they need as far as training and to stay in shape and alert, physically and otherwise, while they're deployed, right? So I would change the whole way the department looks. Number one, how they're deployed, how they're trained. There would be more officers assigned to a particular area instead of sent all over to different places. 1 minute you're here, next minute you're there. You would be assigned to a district and you would be trained. You would be housed there. Your shift is 2 24-hour shifts or whatever that makes sense, right? And then you get days off.
Well, I mean, what works for one agency may not work for the other. I mean, you got correction officers
but clearly it's shit that ain't working with the NYPD right now.
I mean, but think about it. The only one that's working for is FD corrections. They work 4 and 2, but they're working overtime and lack of manpower, and they still getting shanked and stabbed inside the prisons. I mean, everything has gotten soft. What do you think about what? Hold on. What do you think about? What do you think about what Dada said? He said to fix the job of policing, the first thing is to remove politicians. That's a good point. Because, how can wait a minute, stay with me though. How can someone that's never did my job tell me how to do it? Like, that's like me going into a kitchen with a cook at a restaurant, and I don't know how to cook, and I'm in there telling him how to make something. I don't know how to do that. People there's so many people got their hand in how to be a law enforcement officer that's never done it. Never done it. And will never do it.
But bro, I haven't seen any cop at any time come out with an open letter or anything that says that this is the way it should be done.
What do you think we doing it now? We doing it now. I mean,
how should it be done? How should it be done?
Well, what specifically are you asking should be done though?
Well, like the brother said, right? Or like you just said, politicians should be removed out of the equation, right?
I agree with that.
Now, politicians have a job, and their job description is to create and pass laws, right?
Yes.
Right. Now, these laws that come about are laws that supposedly the public, which the politicians work for, the public, who the police officers work for, these are people that are like, this is what they're asking for. Now, everybody has their opinion on what should and shouldn't be done, but the majority rules. So if you got a certain group of people saying, policing is fucked up, it should be like this, then you got other people saying, no, it should be like that. You got two different views. Now, what I'm saying to you is, if police officers see what's wrong with the system and all they see is the problem is the politician, then what's the answer?
Well, first and foremost.
So you're saying if you
hold on. You asked me a question. Let me answer. First, hold on. I'm not put in a position where I can police or I can watch the police officers, right? What people are put in a position that watch the police officers that never been police officers. So bottom line is, you still don't know, and you're more reactionary to what's happening. Now, don't get me wrong. Are there some messed up officers out there? Absolutely. We know that. See, that's where if I was doing that job and if I was in that position, I know how to hammer that person, because I can differentiate between what was a good lawful stop, what was a prejudice stop, this or that. A person that just sees an officer did this and says, okay, let's change this law. You don't know. So that's my point. But the thing is, like,
I don't think it happens, Bill, because a officer did one thing. I think a lot of this shit is coming because inherently and historically, people of color have been dealt a raw and and shitty hand when it comes to law enforcement.
I'm not disputing that. I've never disputed that. But what I'm trying to say is,
All this
we
is chickens are coming home to roost. You know,
okay,
you
but then
have created an environment that was just downright dirty and nasty towards people of color, right? And it's been going on for decades since the inception of policing in New York City. I mean,
I mean,
anybody knows the history of the police department, fire department, even unions in New York City knows that it was done on the backs of blacks, people of
but
color.
but listen, I totally I'm not even going to sit here and dispute you on that, because I'm one person that has always been an advocate for people of color. That's I was going around before the pandemic speaking to schools on how to interact with law enforcement, because I felt there were certain officers, and you didn't want these kids to run into these officers that would judge them just on their skin color. So the bottom line is, the worst case scenario is you might get a ticket or a summons, but you didn't, God forbid, you didn't get killed. So let's try to let's find ways to get you home safe, and then give it to your parents and let them go through the legal channels. But the thing is, anything that was changed, it was changed. Yeah, we could talk historically, but I mean, and I thought about what you just said. You talk about historically. I mean, police officers are called Leos, law enforcement officers, right? But Leos, if you go back to the history, they were slave catchers. So I mean, how far are we going to go back, and when do we want to start just changing what's
Let's just
happening
talk
now?
about New York City, right? New York City, the first police department, fire department that was formed in New York City came after a riot, a race riot over the first draft in New York City, in the country rather. New York
Okay.
City held the first military draft ever during the Civil War.
Right. Right.
In New York City, the poorest group of people were the Irish, not even black people.
Okay.
Irish came over here. They were poor. They were considered black Irish. They would mock them, had all kind of depictions talking about they was black Irish, and they were the lowest of the low. There was no jobs for them or nothing. When the Civil War broke out, a large population of Irish joined the Civil War so they would have a job simply, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had dislike for black people because when the Irish came here, they sent their women first. And they women mingled with blacks and had sex with blacks. So they labeled them black Irish for that alone. So when the men showed up, they was pissed off. They couldn't work. They called them black Irish and all that shit. So when the Civil War broke out and the Union was losing at Gettysburg, they needed more men. So they had a draft. And everybody on the list was Irish. And the Irish motherfuckers got drunk the night before. They were supposed to report to the draft station and said, man, fuck that. We ain't fighting for these niggas. And they went through New York City for 7 days trying to kill every black person they saw. Went down to Wall Street where all the rich people were. Now, if you were rich, you could pay $300 to avoid the draft, which was considered to be a wage. So all of the white people that had money just paid $300 and they didn't have to go. But all the white Irish, they were on that list. And they said, fuck that. So they destroyed New York City, went to the draft station, killed the officers in there. They had to send the Irish soldiers from Gettysburg back to New York for them to stop their own people from all of that shit that they did. And what left there was they had to get a fire department to put the fires out and the police department to lock up and stop their own people from committing those crimes.
Okay, so I'm not hold on, I'm not disputing the history that you're
But
teaching.
listen, Bill, every police uh, commissioner, every fire commissioner up until recent times were all Irish.
I know that. I know that.
Why? If what I'm saying ain't true.
Listen, I'm not disputing that because first and foremost,
but the
go ahead. What were you going to say? What were you going to say?
Police was still beating up on black folks. And we talking about all the way up into the fucking 50s and 60s. There wasn't that many black cops.
I understand that.
On a high position.
But wait a minute. I'm not trying to say that the mentality has not been filtered down historically. What I'm trying to say now is that you have people in power that have tried to change that mentality inside and work their way outside. And a lot of times that's done from people like myself speaking out and saying certain things. You know, you just don't have just any just all black speaking out. Some you don't have any some at all, or you may have Latins that speak out, Hispanics, and you may have some white officers that speak out. The bottom line is it depends on how you were raised and what's your moral compass if you're going to speak out and say something. I mean, now a lot of times if you're caught in the mix of something, it's a whole different mentality. But the one thing that I'm still trying to say is that I'm big with the history too. So we understand the mentality that has been passed down. But how do you stop that? Politicians still can't change that because the bottom line is they don't know the job. Let me tell you something. You think that officer's family that just lost that officer want to hear anything about what what a politician got to say now? Do you really? I mean, what are you going to come and tell me? Oh, the last thing a person want to say, this man shot this man. I don't know anything about this officer. Only thing that I don't know if he was a good officer, a bad officer. I don't know anything about him. All I do know is that he lost his life doing his job. That's all I do know. You know what I'm trying to say?
And in that particular instance of what happened to him, even if he was a dirty cop that did some dirty shit before, at that moment, he was doing his fucking job.
Exactly.
Right? So whatever he did before, that moment, he was performing his duty, right?
Yep.
Just like anybody that's mistakenly shot, right? That's a civilian. At that moment, they was just going to the store to buy some fucking Skittles. And then they got gotten killed by a cop, and then they dig up, oh, well, he had priors, he this, he's that.
Listen, Rich, I get that. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here. I think I'm faster than you. I'll be the first one to say, yo, that was wrong or that's messed up. But the one thing I'm not going to always say is that a politician should tell me how to do my job when he's never done it. Can somebody tell you how to play ball if they never played ball, Rich? I mean, that's all I'm trying to say.
Hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a fucking coach in college when I was at Lincoln University. Nigga never played basketball. He was a football player. But he knew how to coach, right? And none of us go into anything knowing what we're doing.
Okay, right? So all right, hold on. Stay with me there. Stay with me there. So what would you do if Rich, you were able to change some laws and stuff? Let me read what Dada said. And what would you do? Think about this question. What would you do to change some laws if you could? Because the bottom line is, correct me if I'm wrong, you think it's all right for the politicians to be involved into in this kind of in police? I mean, in reforming laws for police officers?
Politicians have always been involved with it. They're the ones that form the police department. So I don't understand what you mean by that. I mean, you're saying politicians are involved. Yeah, they've always been involved with it. But right now they're not doing it the way it used to be done. So now it's a problem.
So what let me ask you, do you think it's working now? Do you think the police department is good right now? I mean, in a point of doing their job?
I don't think the police department is good. I don't think the community is good right now. It's a lot of shit wrong on both sides of this shit.
So do you think it's more the community right now than the police, or do you think it's the police and the community both equally wrong right now?
Things to what?
What you're talking about?
society, communities rather, are so fucked up from different things that took place in our community, right? I know I'm a long-winded motherfucker. So if you ask me that question, hold your breath for a minute. All right. My answer to that has so many different components of what has changed in our community.
But wait a minute. But wait. First, let me just say this. Let me just say before you get on your winded tangent, with all the crimes that are happening right now in communities of color, we can't keep blaming. You can't blame the man for that. Trust me, I get the statistics. It's not the man's fault that these dudes are riding around on the bikes with ski masks, robbing people. It's not the man's fault that these kids don't want to go to school. It's not the man's fault that these kids are joining gangs. So let's call a spade, dude. Really, you can't just keep blaming history on why this is happening. It starts in the household. It starts with the parents. Let me tell you something. Just because a person is not rich doesn't mean you can't train your kids to have a good moral compass in life.
That's not what I was going to say, Bill.
Okay, what were you going to say?
I was going to say there have been changes made, and primarily through politics. You know, administrations come in and they make changes, right? Now, when the police officer's mayor Giuliani came into office, his focus was on
quality of life,
particularly in Times Square. He wanted to change Lower Manhattan into a tourist attraction, right? And to do that, he deployed all of the energy of the NYPD down in Midtown. He took away the budgets of transit, housing, all of the police entities. He consolidated those budgets and turned them into one. That's when they took out the precincts inside of the projects. When I lived in the Polo Grounds, the cops in the Polo Grounds knew all of our names. We had nicknames for them. We had respect for them. Whether we liked them or not, there was a level of respect there. And there was a level of discretion. They didn't just lock your ass up. Sometimes we got caught and they took us home to our parents. Right?
Well, stay with me with that. Stay with me. I was brought from that era too. But you know, right now, if an officer did that or put his hands on a kid, a parent probably would go and say, "Why'd you touch my child?" And why?
Bill, but you chopping me up here because I'm not saying that that's not what the case is today, and I'm leading to something with what it was and how it changed, right? That's what it was when it comes to that particular thing. And your mayor Giuliani took that out and left the project to its own demise. Now you policing perimeters. You're no longer doing beat walking. You're doing drive-by. Cops wasn't stopping getting out their cars. They was driving by. People were then allowed to start setting up crack houses in the apartments when crack hit. That would have never happened if there was the precinct still inside of the project, right? Then the other thing, one of the other things was, you remember the Rockefeller law?
Yeah.
When that kid, if you had us caught with a certain amount of heroin, you were gonna do 25 to life. There were rules to the game in these streets with my father's era, because my father was a street hustler. He wrote numbers and all that shit. He wasn't a dope dealer, but he wrote numbers, and they all kind of intermingled with the Nicky Bonses and all of them. But they had rules to that hustle game, right? They didn't have kids out here hustling. As a kid, if I tried to come out here and sell anything, the hustler would tell me, man, get the fuck out of here and take your ass to school, go to school, get your education. Here's a couple of dollars. Show me your report card. The hustlers would also police their own community from the riffraff that didn't belong here. So it was twofold. The cop knew who belonged here, The hustlers knew who did or didn't belong here. If a dude sold dope here and you was a dope fiend and you bought dope and you tried to rob somebody in this community to buy that bag of dope, you would get bodied by the hustler.
I understand that, but I mean,
but I'm just trying to draw a picture for you, Bill.
well, but I'm saying those pictures are gone right now.
But I'm painting a picture, right? You asking me a question, and I'm trying to give you what was right and what went wrong, right? To get us to where we are. And some of these things could be addressed and dialed back.
Okay.
Why can't we start deploying more training to police officers, doing a recruitment process like they would do in sports? I mean, I got recruited for basketball, and it wasn't because that I was a 5'2" motherfucker with a belly. Motherfucker came and said, "Oh, he can do this. I want him."
Well, the thing is, I think Dada said,
now you got men and women in high school right now that have been active in sports that maybe didn't go good enough to go to college, but physically and academically, they're at a level that they could be suited for this job. So why not me go to a college or a high school and recruit people to come to NYPD? Not just set up a table outside. I mean, literally court them and really have something to offer them. You know, you go and you say, okay, if you do a certain amount of time, we'll pay for your education to go to college. I'll recruit you to work for us and pay for your education.
Well, I don't have the answer to that, because the bottom line is,
what would my answer be? I would go to high schools, to graduating students, to junior colleges, universities, if I was able to create a budget that was attractive enough that it made sense for you to come to this job, and I would choose those people that had the demeanor, the temperament, the physicality to do this job.
Okay, let me just say this first and foremost. I'm not saying that's not a bad idea. What I will say is that to apply to be a law enforcement officer, it is not something that you go home and you tell your parents you want to do, and they're like, "Good, go do that." Because the bottom line is, my parents didn't even want me to be law enforcement. I didn't know it until I went through the academy. It was something I was going to do. And I didn't ask them what they think my career goal should be. My parents wanted me to go to college and finish college, right? But when I became a law enforcement officer, my mother told me after I graduated, she was like, "Yo, I don't want you to be a police officer." I was like, "What?" I guess it wasn't even up for discussion, because I was doing what I wanted to do for me. So I don't think to become a police officer or let's say law enforcement anywhere in this world, it's a badge of honor. It's more I guess a family legacy kind of thing. My daddy was one, I was one. Some people do it, because you can get out, you can retire in 25 years and do something else. But it's not like somebody's like, "Oh, yeah, that's the job to take." I've never heard that presented to people. I see, like you said, I see them at schools or certain places at expos and stuff like that, and they try to recruit you, but they're just saying, "Yo, recruit you because you can get this job and you can get out in 25 years or 20 years. You get a good pension, you get this, and you get this kind of training and stuff like that."
So you get a gun and you get out in years.
Yeah, but it's not like, "Oh, like, yo, if you want to protect and serve." It's the same thing with the military. I remember when I was coming out of high school, recruits were coming and talking about, "Oh, I was going to come by and see if you wanted to come." I said, "Man, I don't have any desire to go to the military. So you don't have to come by and say anything. I don't care what you say to me. My life wasn't in the point." There are some people I know that went to the military because they weren't doing anything in the streets. And then they became and made a career of the military. because they was lost. So I mean, what is deemed as a great job, it's really like a chosen few. Now, is NYPD a job that anybody can take? Yeah, because we can see it by the type of officers that are out there in the street. They're not built for that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
They're not built for it.
but this is the thing, Bill. You asked me a question, what I would do, right?
But you didn't tell me what you was going to do. You just told me you went historically
Well,
about. You said you.
no,
Wait a
it's
minute.
listening there because I was describing to you the way things were and what was working and how it went south, right? I told you also that I would provide training. I would also go recruit at high schools, junior colleges, and universities,
Yes, you
and
did say that.
offer
Yes, you did say that. You did say that.
a better salary and offer to complete your higher education as long as you were still working in the department. You can then pursue a higher level, and the department would pay for you to go to school, right? So I did say these things. I did also say that I would design the police department that was similar to working at the fire department, where you would be at a precinct, say in the projects, the amenities would be there for you to be able to accommodate your living quarters, your dieting, your exercise. There would be a gym in there where you can exercise. There's a kitchen where you can eat food. There's a cook there.
Okay, so let
Right?
me ask you a
So I
question. Let me ask you a
started
question.
running
Let
off
me ask you a
with
question.
stuff, and I guess all that shit I said just went totally off your head. Right?
But let me
But
ask you a
I didn't say
question.
nothing.
But let me ask you a question then, because how does somebody advance in their life? Because the bottom line is somebody there isn't anybody I don't know that doesn't just want a better quality of life. You work for a better like I can tell you the mentality of law enforcement officers. A lot of times you get on this job in 5 years, you get married and you buy a house upstate somewhere, right? Nobody now me personally, I think anybody that comes on this job needs to live within the 5 boroughs until they get off probation. You know what I'm trying to say? Because the bottom line is, remember that when Dinkins wanted it, he wanted it like the cop next door. Those days are gone. You know what I'm saying? Now you can live in New York State. I mean, what can a person tell me about the 5 boroughs that comes from Schenectady, New York? He can't tell me anything because he's never been around me, you, or anybody of color. You understand what I'm trying to say? So I think there's certain things now to tell me that I'm just using this as an example that, yeah, okay, okay, maybe if I'm using this as an example because I did listen to you. Like, say if you worked in housing, okay, we have accommodations. Maybe you're staying there 24 hours. You're working in a precinct and you have accommodations. You can live there, sleep there. You can work out. Like Dada said earlier, and Yolanda said, I was trying to put some of their comments up, is that with NYPD, it's an option to work out. Like there were people that I worked with, we took it on our lunch breaks and went to the gym and worked out because we were really in the muck of the mire in the street. You had to look the part and be the part and be in shape to wrestle and tussle with dudes that was carrying guns and carrying kilos of coke and running from you. So you had to be, prepared. We didn't have a lot of big sloppy fat dudes, and if they were a little out of shape, trust me, they was quick on their toes. You understand what I'm saying? It's still a young man's game. So I get what you're saying in regards to that. But now, where's the career advancement come? Nobody wants, we looked at those officers that stayed on those foot posts for years. Were they there because they wanted to be? Were they there because they didn't have any inspirations to advance their career? Because the bottom line is people always say, okay, what happened to officer so-and-so? Even with me, when I did maybe a year or so on 125th Street on a foot post, when I left, I'm sure they asked the next officer, yo, what happened to Officer Forster? But the bottom line is I want to advance my career. Some people want to stay in a certain place. And then I've seen the supervisors look at those officers as do-nothings. You don't want to do anything with your career. You just want to be here. You know what I'm saying? Then they start coming at with you with the numbers. Well, you got to make an arrest once a week or once a month. Well, wait a minute. Am I protecting the servant or I'm policing now? So now you putting pressure on. I'm just telling you the inside behind the walls.
Let me say this, man.
Sure.
To me, you're an example of the kind of cop that I'm talking about. You're a
Gotcha.
guy from the community, worked your community, right? Still in your community, own a business in your community, got a podcast right now where we on talking about how to better your community. What's better than that?
Right.
You
No. But see, I told you earlier, you and I both agreed. Like I'm a different species. Like Yolanda is saying, her son goes to John Jay.
Bill, this ain't for me. It's for the people that's listening. So let them listen. All right.
But yeah, I get it. But like Yolanda said, hold on, dog. Yolanda says her son goes to John Jay and the department is paying for his courses. That's great. Let me just show some of these comments that we were chopping it up with. We didn't give a lot of people the chance to rock out with us. DJ Tall Guy, what's up, brother? He says, I disagree with the fire department comparison for cops. Okay. DJ, he also says the NYPD cops are a joke these days, and most are there just for a check. We need officers like Joe Bolton type cops. That was my man. He talking about Joe Bolton. That was my man. I learned from him. Shout out to the OG. You know what I'm saying? He definitely was a good one. Norm, shout out to Norm, part of the Real Talk family. He says it's community and police. Communities are not policing themselves anymore, and police are underpaid and overworked. I agree with that. Dada said politicians are now reactionary. The reason is when you get elected, your first day in office, you're planning your re-election bid. Absolutely. So, Rich, we ain't got too much time because we really definitely went past what I wanted. Let me ask you a question. I'm gonna shift and I'm gonna let you rock out on this. What did you think about the governor having a National Guard working standing posts in the subway station? When we know about the transit worker that got slashed, prayers, hopefully he's healing properly. We see people getting pushed, randomly just because people it's like the fad right now. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you just said it. With the National Guard supposedly being deployed, what changed?
Right.
So that was just her in an election year trying to make it look like she had the answers.
Yeah.
Made some feel comfortable by saying we're going to put out the National Guard, right? The National Guard for what? Right? To stand out there and do a random bag search? What you looking for, bombs and shit like in 9/11?
Yeah.
We talking about what did you do about people that are getting shoved on the side on the tracks, people that are getting stabbed on the train and shot. There was no National Guards riding the trains. There was no National Guards nowhere to be seen when none of this shit was happening. That put them out there, right?
Yeah. I agree.
Nothing else about it.
Because they don't have the National Guard on 141st, 145th and Broadway. They got to, if you got all these National Guards downtown, I mean, the crime ain't happening on 42nd Street and 34th Street. You know what I'm saying?
That shit is for show. That shit is just to say I did something. Somebody battery in her back and said, "Yeah, you should do that." That to me that made no sense.
Yeah, like Dada said, smoke and mirrors, and he says, it's used illusion. It's illusion of safety. Yolanda said, it would have been nice to put two of them on the platform, 183rd Street and Grand Concourse. Absolutely. Stefania says, I still haven't seen them yet. Shaking my head. Yeah, man. I mean, I think we all agree right now. I got to
say this about this transit shit before we get out, because we can discuss the fact that they passed that law for congestion pricing.
Oh my God, that's another thing. We need to talk about that next week.
Downtown, you got to pay $16 to go below 60th Street, right?
And you saw the time, right? They want that money from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. during the weekdays, and from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on the weekends. That's crazy to me.
But listen, though, this is for me, this is the shit here. They're saying they're doing this so they can generate money for transit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You watch the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You watch television. This
Yeah.
even shows get funded through sponsors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Advertisement, right? If you get a spot on the Super Bowl for 30 seconds, you're talking about $5 million for 30 seconds.
Mm.
Look around the city. You got down on 125th Street, the Cotton Club. They got a big billboard up there. They get paid money for that billboard to be up there. That pays for the Cotton Club to even be there. They ain't got to sell a ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Advertisement is multi-billion-dollar industry. If you go in a train station, how much advertisement do you see on every train, every wall, everywhere you see advertisement? The buses go up and down 8th and whatever avenue, advertisement. There is so much money being generated through advertisement. How come you motherfuckers is broke?
Where's the money at, right?
And nobody's even asking the question or talking about it. Where's the advertisement money? Where's them Super Bowl ads that you put up, them NBA All-Star ads? Where's all that shit? Where's all that money? When these professional teams fork out these big contracts to these players, you think they paying them all that money from ticket sales?
Right.
No, it's advertisements. They get media deals where they're airing the games on television. The TVs get sponsors from pharmaceutical companies, beer companies, so and so, and they paying them to advertise their product.
Mm-hmm.
Billions of dollars. New York City's transit is transferring millions of people every day.
One day, I'm gonna see if I can get Dada to come on. He says, as a transit cop for 23 years, everyone knows the MTA has two separate sets of books, one to beg and one to play with.
So all that shit to me is bullshit. The amount of money from what I see historically that's generated from advertisement, and you see some of these stupid ass commercials, you be like, a motherfucker really got paid to make that shit? Because it's giving a subliminal message for people to make and spend money.
So what do you think? I'm sorry. What do you think about what Stefania said? She said, well, you guys always have to keep in mind that the city is running out of money quickly due to the migrant crisis. I believe New York City is operating at a deficit. What's your thoughts on that?
Man, listen. The city been losing money, according to the city, before the migrants showed up. And everybody's talking about migrants in the forms of Mexicans coming from the south border. What about all these fucking Europeans that nobody want to talk about?
I saw that.
They don't say nothing about none of these white folks that's coming straight off the airport that get to stay here as long as they want to. And ain't nobody jumping up, blasting them on the news, talking about, oh, look at the influx of all these motherfucking foreigners that's white that don't speak English either, but they speak these foreign languages where a lot of these people got lineage at, and they don't want to put them on blast. The motherfucking Donald Trump's woman was a fucking migrant.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Come on, man. We always looking at each other and want to say, yeah, you know, we looking for the new nigga, so to speak.
Yeah.
We as black folks in America are buying into the new nigga knowledge shit here going on. We need to find a new nigga to call a nigga because we tired of being a nigga. So let's get on board.
You didn't N-word it up enough. You just said the N-word 5 times in one sentence.
Hey.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, man. I know what you're saying. Yo.
I mean, we gotta pay attention to really what's going on here. You know?
Yeah.
You know, an African dude brought this to my attention. I don't know if I had mentioned this before. You know, that whole Ukraine wars that's going on and all of that, you know, but an African dude brought this to my attention because he said, you know, we speak multiple languages. You know, when you see these Africans, they speak in French, Spanish, Italian, they speak in German. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right, right.
So all of the different languages that they speak come from colonization, right? All of these countries that we're talking about make up NATO, right? In France, you know, all of them. And they colonized South America, Africa, all of the different regions of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, we don't speak Russian. And I'm like, wow, Russia has never colonized no country in South America, United States, Africa, right?
Right.
When the United States was going to go to war with Russia, it was because Russia wanted to put support in Cuba and supply them with military warfare, nuclear weapons, things of that nature. The United States, John Kennedy said, hell no, that's too close to us. We could see Cuba from Florida. It got so bad, they called it the Missiles of October because the United States was going to go to war if they didn't turn them ships around and back down from that. Simply because the United States says, you're our enemy. The Cold War is based on the premise that we can't fight each other because if we did, we would blow up the world. We have these little proxy wars between we support these small countries that are fighting against democracy and communism.
Right.
So
Right.
the Ukraine, which was once part of the Soviet Union, which historically was the gateway to all the attacks in Russia in World War I and II, they're saying that you can't join NATO. That's what this shit started from. You can't join NATO. You joining our enemy. You were too close to us to be in bed with our enemy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you stay out of NATO and you good. They saying, fuck that. We want to be a democracy. We want to be a part of NATO. So he tell them, no, if you do that, we coming. So they came.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, that's a whole nother topic, and I totally get what you're saying on that. I mean,
But
it's a whole.
say that everybody is so quick to jump on the bandwagon of whatever the media is spinning that's in the best interest of certain people, right? Just like the whole shit in Israel with the Palestinians. You know, Israel has the right to be a state. Sure, okay. So you're telling me that after World War II, European converted Jews get to decide where they go because they don't want to be here no more. We want to go to the promised land, which is promised us by God, which is modern day Palestine. NATO takes them and goes to Palestine and says, hey, guess what, Bill? See these niggas here? They gonna be living in your house. And ain't nothing you can do about it. They get there. They trying to form some kind of a peace talks on how they can live together and all that shit. The Jews went over there and they took over all the land that they can get. If you go over there, and everybody that I know that's been over there, they were shocked to see how Jerusalem, the Jews, was treating the Palestinians, how they had the land fenced off, how they had all the resources to themselves. If you wanted to get work, you had to go into their area. And if you lived in Harlem, you had to drive to Brooklyn because that's the only way you can get back into Harlem. You didn't have the freedom to travel like any place else. People say, "Oh well, you know, the Palestinians, they blew shit up and this and that." Okay, but you got a big giant in your cell, a big 6'8" motherfucker, 350 pounds, telling you that you got to sit on the fucking toilet and pee.
Yeah.
And he gonna kill you if you worship what you want to worship. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
You gonna tell this motherfucker, okay, I know you can beat me, but you can't sleep in this motherfucking cell. Kill me or give me my fucking space, but you ain't gonna punk me into submission. I know you bigger than me. I know you can kill me. But if you wanna sleep, you might as well finish me off.
Right.
And that's what Benjamin Netanyahu was saying. He's saying, we gonna end this shit once and for all. We going in there, we gonna kill every one of these Palestinians. That's called genocide.
Yeah, you're right about that, bro.
You're bombing fucking schools, hospitals that you know kids and little women are in there because you're saying some fucking terrorists is in there. So you're gonna kill everybody because you say they in there.
Yeah. That's gangster.
I'm gonna end this off with a fact, and you can Google this. Did you know that in Israel that it's against the law for you to have a DNA test?
Really?
Somebody hit me to that, and I Googled it, and I looked at it, and it's right there.
Dada
right?
said that's factually incorrect. Ukraine did not want to join NATO. They didn't petition for membership until it appeared Russia was going to attack. But I'm gonna let that be another topic for next week.
All right.
Yeah.
But tell them to check this out though. It's illegal to get a DNA test, right? Because the Jews that were in Europe converted to Judaism.
Well, Dada, he gave you a homework assignment. Let us know next Wednesday. You know, hopefully we'll be back to convene. Rich, we done definitely went past our time. Giving people some positive love and affirmation, man.
Hey, man, listen. Don't believe everything you hear. Even do your own research. You know, I deserve respect like anybody else. You know,
absolutely.
So if I say something that ain't correct, come back with the facts. Because I'm like Dragnet, like Jack Webb say. Just the
absolutely. Facts. Absolutely. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. That's Richard Williams. I'm Bill Forster. Thank you. Thank you. It's always delightful when I talk to my bro. We get it in. You know, I appreciate him. He knows I love him.
Yeah, have all that noise with Kev and the rest of them dudes, man.
Yeah. We don't know what these guys are. Shout out to our other guys. Monday, tune in. If Al's not here, I might have a doctor in. We can talk some more health stuff. You know, Rich is always welcome to come back whenever he wants to, of course. But you know, you always used to get to see him on a Wednesday. But everybody, if you like it, subscribe to it on YouTube. If you rock it on Facebook, share it. I appreciate it. And until then, and we will get back and chop it up with you real soon, man. You know where I'm at. I'm always at the row. Some way, somehow, come down and have a drink with me. Support, you know, ownership. And we still doing our thing. Right, Rich? Rich has a good time when he comes and hangs out with me. You know?
Oh, man. And I'm not a person that used to go out, man.
Yeah.
When I first come down there, I used to be in and out. Head on a swivel.
Yeah.
But now I feel comfortable.
There you go. That's a good thing. Mature environment, mature clientele. Everybody, to the next
owner.
Go ahead. What was you going to say, Rich? I'm sorry.
I said, now that I know the owner.
Yeah. It makes everything beautiful. Exactly. Everybody, until the next time, have a wonderful week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, your week. Hope to see you soon, somewhere, someplace. Holla at your boy. Holla at Rich. We'll talk to you in a minute. Peace and love. Great show.